Good morning. It's been a while since I've been here, but I'm back, and it is now semifinal Saturday on the men's side and the women's side as well. Championship Sunday and Selection Sunday will be tomorrow, so a lot of exciting things happening in the next couple of days. So without wasting any time, let's get into the games today. There's a lot of tickets getting punched today. I think it's upward of 20 combined between the men's and women's, so let's talk about them. We'll start with the ACC men. That game will be 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. You have Duke, you have Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech looking for their first ACC tournament championship since they joined the league. They've had quite the ride through this tournament. Escaped Clemson 76-75 on a buzzer beater in overtime on Wednesday. Beat Notre Dame 87-80 on Thursday in the quarterfinals. Beat 2-seed Notre Dame. Beat 3-seed North Carolina 72-59 last night, and now get the biggest giant of all. They play Duke, a team in contention for 1 seed in the tournament. Mike Krzyzewski's last ride. It's going to be tough to bet against Coach K on this one, although Virginia Tech does not care for these narratives. This will be very interesting. Duke has had a tough time in this tournament too. They barely escaped 9-seed Syracuse 88-79 and then 4-seed Miami last night 80-76. So both these teams have played really close games. These should be a really, really good game. I want to take Virginia Tech. I think the momentum looks like it will be Virginia Tech, but I can't bet against Coach K in this situation. Like, the emotions that are probably going to be there for Mike Krzyzewski, for the Duke team, they're going to want to play for him. And Duke did beat Virginia Tech in their one meeting this year, but that was all the way back on December 22nd, 76-65. So this will be interesting, but I think Duke will get it done. It will be close, but I do think the Blue Devils will get the victory and win Mike Krzyzewski one last ACC title. They're going to see if they can then parlay that into a national championship in a few weeks from now. Also in the America East, we have the 2-seed UMBC and the 1-seed Vermont. That will be on ESPN2 at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, one of the first games off the hop today. Vermont got here by beating 8-seed NGIT 98-59, beat 6-seed Binghamton 74-42. Vermont 17-1 in conference play, UMBC 11-7. So certainly not out of the realm of possibility to see an upset here, but UMBC, has that tournament experience. They're the one team that's ever beaten a 1 seed in the tournament. We all know that. UMBC beat 7-seed UMass Lowell 93-85 in overtime, and then beat Hartford, the defending champion from last year, 80-60 in the semifinals to reach this championship game. Based on records, based on the season that has been had between these two teams, based on the fact that Vermont beat UMBC by 19 points earlier in the year and then by almost 30 points in February, all signs point to a Vermont Catamounts trip to the tournament. I'm going to take Vermont to get in and be the America East champion. I know it's picking 2 for 2. I'm picking 1 seeds, but I'm not here to make exciting picks. I'm here to make picks that will probably be wrong so you can laugh at me later. That's why I'm here, because that's what happened last Championship Sunday, and I'm here to be laughed at again, but I will continue to make picks. I'm going to take Vermont to win this one. Going forward as well, the Atlantic Sun women have their championship game today. The Atlantic Sun men has an interesting situation where Bellarmine won the tournament, but because they're ineligible for the NCAA tournament, you have Jacksonville State, who lost in the semifinals, going to the championship. I've never been a big fan of that rule, but here we are. I think that Jacksonville, who lost in the championship, should have gotten that conference's ticket, but that's the men's side. The women's side has been a pretty chalky tournament. You look at Jacksonville State's path here. They beat the 4 seed out of the East, Jacksonville, 70-56 in the quarterfinals. Beat the 2 seed out of the East, Liberty, 59-57 on Wednesday to reach the championship game. They will now travel to Florida Gulf Coast to play the Eagles. Florida Gulf Coast, 71-60 over North Florida, 82-67 over Stetson. Florida Gulf Coast is actually nationally ranked. They're 28-2. I really thought it would come down to Liberty and Florida Gulf Coast. I'm pretty happy for Jacksonville State that they got here, pretty proud of them on that, but I'm going to take Florida Gulf Coast here. I just think they are cut above the rest in this conference. They've been able to take care of business so far. I'm going to take the Eagles to get the automatic ticket. Also, for those of you who thought I was going in alphabetical order, I will go back to tournaments that don't have championship games today. I'm going to talk about the championship games first. In the Big 12, we have a great matchup. We have number 3 Texas Tech taking on number 1 Kansas. Both these teams will be in the NCAA tournament. The question is, they're just playing for seeding at this point. Kansas, of course, is the standard bearer in the Big 12 on the men's side. So far, they have beaten West Virginia and TCU pretty handily, 87-63 in the quarterfinals over the 9 seed Mountaineers. Beat the 5 seed Horned Frogs yesterday, 75-62. Texas Tech, on the other hand, they blasted through 6 seed Iowa State, 72-41. That might really hurt the Cyclones' tournament chances. That loss doesn't look good. And they just barely squeaked past Oklahoma yesterday. A missed free throw at the end doomed the Sooners' tournament run. Oklahoma will now likely head to the NIT. It will be Texas Tech against Kansas for the Big 12 title. These two teams have, of course, played this year, as they always do. They play 2 times a year, and Texas Tech did actually split with Kansas, 75-67, and then 94-91 in double overtime. This should be a really close game. Again, these two teams are, I would say, probably the second and third best team in the division, in the conference, although I think Baylor might have something to say about that. I'm going to go with Texas Tech in a little bit of an upset here. I know that this is Kansas's tournament as the standard bearer, but I think the Red Raiders are going to get it done. I just have a feeling, and there's going to be an upset somewhere today. It's just going to happen. This is one of the ones I'm going on. The Big 12 women are in their semifinals. I'll talk about that tournament when we swing back around. The Big East Championship tonight is 6:30 Eastern Time on Fox. The Big 12, by the way, I didn't mention it, is 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. So these will be going on simultaneously. We have 4 seed Creighton taking on number 2 seed Villanova. And this is a really interesting one because you have Villanova, who has just squeaked through this tournament despite being the number 8 team in the country. They beat St. John's 66-65. They beat Connecticut yesterday 63-60. You look at Creighton, beat Marquette in the quarterfinals 74-63, beat and then absolutely laid a whooping on number 1 Providence last night 85-58. I know I'm going to go with the hot hand here. I'm going to go with the Blue Jays. They're looking like they're on a mission to make it to the tournament. I know that they're a bubble team. I'm going to take Creighton here to get the job done and eliminate all doubt. They will be in the dance with an upset win over Villanova. The Big Sky Championship tonight is 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. I believe it might be 8 p.m. I'm not sure which time zone this page is in. That's the thing about things not being Eastern. Sometimes you don't know. You got number 3 seed Northern Colorado taking on 1 seed Montana State. Montana State beat 8 seed Sacramento State in the quarterfinals 83-61. Beat 4 seed Weber State 69-66 in yesterday's semifinals to reach this game. Northern Colorado eked by Eastern Washington 68-67 in the quarterfinals and then squeaked by 7 seed Portland State 86-79. It's going to be a close one here, but I'm going to stick with Montana State just based on the closeness of Northern Colorado's games. They did play Northern Colorado this year and actually did split the season series with them. Northern Colorado lost by 2 on the season finale, but they opened up conference play. They beat Montana State 77-75 in overtime. I'm going to have this one go to overtime again, but I think Montana State, the slightly better team, I will take Montana State to get it done. Big Ten have their semifinals today, so we'll swing back around and talk about that. The Big West men are 1 versus 2. We have Cal State Fullerton taking on Long Beach State, who won on a crazy buzzer beater last night, 67-64 over UC Santa Barbara. They beat 9 seed Cal State Bakersfield in the quarterfinals on Thursday. Cal State Fullerton beat UC Davis 73-55, beat 3 seed Hawaii in the semifinals 58-46. This is a really tough one. This is a really close one. These two teams played pretty close to each other throughout the season. I'm gonna go with Long Beach State though in a very close game. Should be fun. And the Big West Women's Championship, we have UC Irvine, the 2 seed, and we have the 1 seed Hawaii, who needed to squeak past number 9 seed Cal State Bakersfield in the quarterfinals and then took care of UC Riverside yesterday pretty handily. 69-55 was your final there. UC Irvine took down UC Davis 84-75 in overtime, kind of ended their Cinderella run, so to speak. Beat Fullerton 80-68, in the 80-68, in the quarterfinals on Wednesday. This is a close one, but I'm actually going to go with UC Irvine on this one. They're 14-4 in conference play. Hawaii's 13-3. I'm going to go UC Irvine. UC Irvine was able to complete their conference season, and I just think, all things being equal, I'll take UC Irvine. They had a tough game yesterday. I think they are a little more prepared for this game in terms of being a March Madness kind of game, a close game, nip and tuck. I think they're a little more prepared for that. I'm going to take UC Irvine based on what I've seen in this tournament. The CAA women have their semifinals. I will swing back around to that. This Conference USA men had an incredible game yesterday. 2 seed out of the West, UAB beat number 1 seed out of the East, Middle Tennessee, 102-98 in triple overtime, which was a stark contrast to the game earlier in the day. 3 seed out of the West, Louisiana Tech beat 1 seed out of the West, 42-36. Just a sharp contrast here in styles and in quality of game on that front. This is a really tough one, but I think both 1 seeds went down. UAB 14-4. Louisiana Tech 12-6. This is going to be a really interesting game between these two teams. I'm really interested to see how it pans out. UAB and Louisiana Tech did play twice in the regular season, and UAB won both times, 87-74 on the season finale and 83-67 in Ruston, Louisiana. So this is a really interesting one, but I'm going to go this time, third time's the charm for Louisiana Tech. I'm going to take the Bulldogs. It's the old adage, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in one season, and while it does happen, I think, law of averages, it usually works out that way. In the women's tournament, we have 1 seed out of the East and 1 seed out of the West. Charlotte and Louisiana Tech went through their bracket. Louisiana Tech beat 5 seed out of the West, UAB, 71-66 in the quarterfinals. Beat the 2 seed out of the East yesterday, 80-72, probably their biggest contender for a spot in the tournament, but they took care of business. They move on now to the title game against 1 seed out of the East, Charlotte, who beat 4 seed out of the West, Rice, 59-53, and squeaked by 2 seed out of the West, North Texas, 66-63. I'm going with the Lady Texters, and I will admit that this is a bit of bias. I do think Charlotte is a little bit of a better team, but you look at their overall record, Louisiana Tech's 21-10, Charlotte's 21-9, so it's pretty close. I'm going to go with the Lady Texters, and this is actually just kind of a bias pick based on history. The Lady Texters used to be one of the giants of the women's basketball game. They used to be regulars in Final Fours, national championships, certainly regulars in the NCAA tournament, but it's been over a decade since they even appeared in a tournament, and it's been 18 years, I believe, since they've won a game in the tournament. I have to check my math on that. Yeah, it's been 18 years. They made the Sweet 16 in 2004, and they have not won an NCAA tournament game since that time. They have made it a few times, but they haven't won. I'm going to take the Lady Texters this time. I'm going to have them go back to the tournament for the first time since 2011. It's been, like I said, it's been a minute for them. They have made a couple of NITs recently, but I think this year it's a return to the tournament for the Lady Texters. Going into the Ivy League women, the men start their semifinals this afternoon, 11 a.m. Eastern and 2 p.m., but the women, they play their championship tonight at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, this game taking place at Levites Pavilion on the campus of Harvard University. And even though Harvard is not in the championship game, they lost their semifinal game to Princeton yesterday. They gave it a really good fight, 72-67. But I need to mention, we are losing a giant of the women's basketball game. Harvard coach Kathy Delaney Smith is retiring after decades upon decades of success. You might recognize her name. She was the coach of the Harvard team in 1998 that beat Tara Vanderveer's Stanford Cardinal, the first 16-1 upset in the history of college basketball, men or women. A lot of people wrongfully think that's UMBC because the women's game until recently has not gotten the exposure it should, but no. Kathy Delaney Smith has been the coach at Harvard for over 30 years. She's won over 600 games. She is a basketball Naismith Hall of Famer, and deservedly so. She is retiring after an incredible career. We're losing a legend in the women's game, and I wanted to take a minute to appreciate her and that. We also lost Gary Blair, Texas A&M, been coaching 37 years. Need to respect those people. Need to, give them their kudos. Going forward now, the Ivy League championship is Columbia versus Princeton. They dominated the regular season. Princeton undefeated in conference play. Columbia was 12-2. So they were definitely a cut above the rest, and they showed that by getting here. Princeton 14-0. I think I'm going to stick with the Tigers here to beat Columbia, but it'll be close, I feel like. But I'm going to take Princeton to complete the Ivy League sweep. Going on to the MAC, and no, this is not the Mid-American Conference. This is the Metro Atlantic Conference. This is the MAAC. They and the MAC both go by the same phrase. They both pronounce the same way. This is number 4 seed Monmouth against 2 seed St. Peter's. This should be an interesting game. This is a double round robin league, so these two teams have met twice. And the Peacocks and the Hawks they've played twice. The Peacocks swept the regular season series 70-65 over Monmouth and 67-62. So both games by 5 points. Based on how close they were, the fact that they're playing a third time, I think the Hawks have the advantage here. I'm going to take Monmouth by 4 this time. They're going to win the championship. They have beaten Niagara, the 5 seed, 61-58, and the 9 seed Ryder, who upset the 1 seed, 72-68. St. Peter's has beaten Fairfield, 77-63, and 11 seed Quinnipiac, who sprung 2 upsets to get to this game yesterday in the semifinals, 64-52. So had those games gone the opposite way, we were looking at potentially an 11 versus a 9 seed for the automatic ticket. You don't see that every day. I'm not going to lie, I was rooting for it. On the women's side, it was much more chalky. We have a 1 versus a 3 in the championship. Fairfield beat Iona 69-56 in the quarterfinals. Blasted through Niagara yesterday, 75-38 in the semifinals. It was not close at all. Quinnipiac beat number 7 seed St. Peter's 63-52. The Peahens lost there. And Manhattan beat Quinnipiac 72-59. Manhattan beat the Jaspers beat Canisius in the quarterfinals 61-49. They were an 11 seed looking to do what the Quinnipiac men did. Manhattan then beat Quinnipiac's women 72-59. It'll be Fairfield versus Manhattan in the championship game. Fairfield has been a cut above the rest in this entire tournament, and I think that's going to continue here. Fairfield 24-6, Manhattan 21-10, no slouch, but I'm going to take Fairfield to take down the Jaspers. I think the Stags just a little bit better. And then we have the MEAC men. These are, of course, the historically black colleges and universities play in this conference. We have a very interesting matchup on both ends here. We'll start with the men. They play first, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. The MAC championships, by the way, are on ESPN News at 11 a.m. Eastern Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPNU for the men. The MEAC, they will be doing 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. We got the 7 seed Coppin State. They beat 2 seed Howard 59-57 and 3 seed NC Central 79-73 to reach this game. 1 seed Norfolk State squeaked by Delaware State 74-66 and beat 4 seed Morgan State in the semifinals 72-63. I'm going to go with Coppin State to complete the comeback. They would also make some history here. Coppin State would be 10-22, which I believe it's not the right kind of history, but they would be, I think, the team with it would be the worst record of any NCAA tournament qualifying team. But I feel like Coppin State's got the momentum right now. They've sprung 2 straight upsets. I'm going to have them spring another one. I'm going to take Coppin State. The women play 3:30 Eastern Time on ESPN Plus. This tournament was a lot more chalky. We have Howard, the 1 seed, against 2 seed Norfolk State. Norfolk State barely squeaked by 7 seed NC Central in the quarterfinals 58-52 and beat 3 seed Morgan State 53-51. Howard blasted through hapless Delaware State 87-51. Winless on the year is Delaware State after that and beat 5 seed Maryland Eastern Shore 68-54. In the semifinals. I think the Bison just a cut above the rest in this conference. I'm going to take Howard to get the win and get the automatic ticket, and you'll probably get to watch them on national TV on Wednesday in the first 4 because they're 19-9 in a weak conference. I think they're a strong contender to be in the first 4. MAC men tonight at 7:30 on ESPN2. You have 4 seed Akron and 2 seed Kent State. Kent State beat Miami of Ohio 85-75 in the quarterfinals and 3 seed Ohio 67-61 in the semifinals. We have had only 1 upset in this tournament, and it was the Akron Zips beating 5 seed Buffalo 70-68 and then ousting the top seed Toledo yesterday 70-62. So this should be a really close game today. I'm going to take, just gut feeling, I'm going to take Akron. I think they've looked a little bit better. These two teams did meet in the regular season, and Kent State swept the regular season series, but both games were close, 67-55 and 66-64. Again, I think when you have a team that played another that they've beaten them twice, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times. I'm going to take Akron to get the job done. The MAC women is an interesting one. We got a 5 seed Ball State who sprung 2 upsets, beating 4 seed Northern Illinois 60-54 and 1 seed Toledo 71-66 to reach this title game. They will take on Buffalo 63-49 winners in the quarterfinals over 7 seed Western Michigan and 82-43 drubbing of Akron yesterday. This time, I'm going to go with Buffalo to beat Ball State. I think Ball State's run is going to come to an end here. Buffalo has kind of been the standard bearer on the women's basketball side of things for the MAC recently. I think that's going to continue here. Buffalo made the Sweet 16 as an 11 seed a few years ago. They've really improved their basketball program. So I am going to take Buffalo to move on once again. The Missouri Valley women have their semifinals today. The Mountain West men have their championship. Boise State against San Diego State. Boise State and San Diego State did meet this season, and they did get swept by the Broncos. San Diego State won twice, and again, I can't pick the same thing, but I'm going to take Boise State this time. Some teams will succeed in beating a team 3 times. I think the Broncos have looked a little bit better in this tournament than a San Diego State, who's barely escaped Fresno State and Colorado State. In this tournament, Boise State has looked the part of the 1 seed, especially yesterday. I'm going to take Boise State. The men's Pac-12 concludes tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Number 2 seed UCLA, number 1 seed Arizona. These are 2 teams that have Final Four aspirations at this point. I think it's going to be a really, really good game between the two. Arizona was blasted by UCLA earlier this year, 75-59. And then Arizona returned to favor 76-66 back in Tucson at the McHale Center. This should be a great game. It should be these are definitely the standard bearers historically in this conference. They're the standard bearers this year. In the third meeting, I'm going to go with UCLA. Johnny Juzang, UCLA, they have that Final Four experience after last year. They play their best basketball in March, UCLA does. That's why they're one of the blue bloods of the entire nation, not just the Pac-12. They made the Final Four as an 11 seed last year. They are even better this year. I'm going to take UCLA to do what they do in March and win. The SEC men have semifinals today, but we'll talk about that later. The Southland semifinals for the women, championship for the men. 4 seed Texas A&M Corpus Christi has beaten 5 seed Houston Baptist and 1 seed Nichols to get to this game. They had a double round robin regular season, so they did meet Southeastern Louisiana. They split their season series 86-71 and 83-74. These 2 teams, both of them are trying to break long NCAA tournament droughts. This game will be 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. I'm going to go with Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It's just a gut feeling. I think they've looked a little bit better in this tournament. They've also played 3 games, which can be a disadvantage, but I think they've got a little more momentum right now than does Southeastern Louisiana, the 2 seed, who beat 3 seed New Orleans yesterday, 74-65, to get to this game. I'm going to have Texas A&M Corpus Christi get their first trip to the NCAA tournament since 2007. The SWAC is also having their championship games today. Both leagues have 1-2 and 1-3 matchups. Alcorn State and Texas Southern are taking each other on. This should be one of the more exciting games of the day. This game will be 6 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPNU. The SWAC, the men's side especially, every game has been close. Alcorn State barely beat Prairie View A&M, the 8 seed, 64-63 in overtime in the quarterfinals. Beat Alabama A&M yesterday, 69-64. Texas Southern beat Jackson State 54-50 and beat Grambling State 73-54 yesterday. That was the only game in this whole tournament that's been decided by more than double digits. Everything else has been single digits. It's been a lot of fun in this tournament. I'm gonna go with Alcorn State. I go off that based on 14-4 in the conference. They did meet twice this season, I believe. Let me take a look. Texas Southern, they beat them the first time, and they beat them the second time. They were both close games, but they were 1 and 3-point games. So on that note, I'm actually going to change my vote just based on Alcorn State squeaking through this. They swept Texas Southern in the regular season, but that makes it even harder to win the third time. Texas Southern has probably played the most impressive game in the tournament, beating the brakes off Grambling State yesterday, so I'm going to take Texas Southern. In the SWAC women's tournament, I'm not going to go too long on this. I think Jackson State is going to take care of business. They've beaten Arkansas Pine Bluff and Southern to reach the title game not handily, but by double digits, while 3 seed Alabama State barely beat Prairie View A&M 60-58. And then got lucky and Grambling State sprung an upset. Then they beat them, 7 seed Grambling State. They beat them 74-59 yesterday. Jackson State went undefeated in conference play in the regular season. I think that continues. The Lady Tigers just a cut above the rest in the SWAC this year. I'm going to take the Lady Tigers. And last but not least, we've got the WAC. On the men's side, we have 1 seed New Mexico State, who beat Grand Canyon 75-70, the defending conference champion, to get to this game. And you have the 6 seed Abilene Christian. This game will be 7 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU, 7 p.m. Pacific time. 6 seed Abilene Christian, of course, became famous last year for upsetting 3 seed Texas. They have beaten Utah Valley, Stephen F. Austin, and Seattle to get here on the stepladder tournament. New Mexico State, the last rung on that ladder to beat. I'm going to take Abilene Christian. They seem to be rolling right now. They have that experience from last year. They want to get back to the tournament and slay some more Giants. And for the WAC women, we have 2 seed Grand Canyon, 1 seed Stephen F. Austin. This should be a good game. It should be close, but I'm going to go Stephen F. Austin. The Lady Jacks just cut above the rest in this conference, 17-1 in league play. I think the Lady Jacks get it done. They looked very impressive yesterday in their 68-42 victory over Utah Valley. So that's it for championship games today. I will actually not be previewing the semifinal games because this video's gone on long enough. So I'm going to call it here for now. And I will preview the championship games tomorrow for those semifinal matches and championship games that have yet to be played. So please feel free to give this video a like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you found it. And on Monday, I will break down both the men's and women's brackets. I'll release my own brackets. I'll show you guys my horrible picks so you can make fun of them. And we'll talk about each team as much as I can. And my green screen will be up, and I'll have the little thing behind me, and we'll have a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that, and I'll talk to you in the next one tomorrow. Happy semifinal Saturday and happy selection Sunday. We're down the home stretch. We're ready for the big dance. We're excited. It's that time of year.